Hi, I'm Melissa Matinzi. Welcome to the Plymouth Planning Board candidate interview. I want to take a moment to thank our candidate for participating in this interview and collaborating with PACTV to bring this informational programming to residents and voters this election season. Let me explain the format. Today, Brigitta Keene will be interviewed. Brigitta will have 2 minutes to introduce herself, speak about her background, qualifications, and why she's running for office. I'll then ask a series of questions related to state and local issues. Brigitta will be hearing the questions for the first time during this forum, and she'll have 2 minutes to answer the questions. After the questions, she'll have 2 minutes for closing remarks. The 2-minute time frame will be shown on her screen. So let's get started with the opening statement. And Brigitta, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Melissa, and hello, Plymouth voters. For those who don't yet know me, I wasn't born in Plymouth, but I've shown my love and commitment to our one-of-a-kind town through volunteer activities. I participate in a local health clinic. I volunteered here at PACTV. I'm a town meeting member and the former chair of the Board of Health. For the past 2 years, I've been the alternate on the planning board, making me the only experienced candidate. We are just beginning to understand the long-term impact that this past year has had on Plymouth's economy, schools, and infrastructure. Plymouth is a town that celebrates its historic past and now attracts visitors to its open space in droves to escape urban congestion. We are beginning to see a post-pandemic housing boom. Residents tell me they want a common sense approach to grow smarter, to conserve better, to ensure a vibrant future that we can all share. Growing smarter means protecting historic resources, reducing environmental impacts, and encouraging greater density in developed areas, reducing traffic congestion and improving our roads. Conserve better addresses the imbalance between open space and development. A recent precedent-setting decision by the Planning Board to break covenants in areas of old forests and traditional Plymouth will only delay the inevitable: the funding of town services through higher residential and commercial property taxes. All of this is in the master plan, the plan for our community that the state requires and the Planning Board controls. Planning effectively needs the experience I will bring to the board, along with my values of integrity and transparency. I'm asking for your vote, Brigitta Keene, Planning Board. Grow smarter, conserve better. It's just common sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Brigitta. We're now going to move on to our first question. How does the board balance the need for commercial growth, residential growth, and open space in our community? And you'll have 2 minutes to respond.
Thank you, Melissa. As the alternate on the planning board, I have been balancing those questions for the past 2 years, along with my fellow colleagues on the board. But let me say that first and foremost, this town has a master plan that actually resolves those questions. It's the plan that addresses those questions. It's a plan that is required by the state, and it's required to have certain components in it. Land use, what you're talking commercial versus residential, those are zoned areas. It's required to have sections on natural resources, on housing, on open space. The Open Space Committee is a committee that reports to the Planning Board, along with the town meeting and the select board. The master plan has to have a section on historic and cultural resources, on economic development, and on transportation. So in many respects, the plan is there, and the Planning Board follows that plan. Now, it's not every day that it's at the table, and it would be my goal as a Planning Board member to make sure that that master plan, which is put together by boards and committees and residents, really importantly, residents of Plymouth, for our future and what our town looks like, that plan is at the table. That it is there for the use not only of the Planning Board, but for the public who participates in the Planning Board meetings, so that they understand that the plan that they put together is really the plan that we are implementing. Thank you.
Thank you, Brigitta. And we're going to move on to question number 2. How would you address the issue of the lack of affordable housing in the town? You have 2 minutes.
Affordable housing is a complex issue. The state is mandating that this state, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, has more housing. There is a critical need for housing, and there is a critical need for housing that young families can afford to move into, and that elderly can afford to stay in or move down to. I'm not saying down, but I'm saying downsizing too. As you get older, maybe you want your kids to have your house, but then where do you go? And if where you're going is a much smaller space, but it actually costs more than what you're leaving, how do you actually afford that? So we have the state that puts an overlay onto the requirements of the planning board. So what are some of those? First of all, what the state says is that 10% of the housing in Plymouth needs to be affordable. But the burden that they put on us in the affordable is to say that, well, I'm not going to get into the complicated formulas, but they're using HUD numbers from Boston. So they're saying, well, Plymouth, you're really kind of like Boston. So the affordable home that we're going to let you build is really going to be unaffordable for most in Plymouth. And that is a burden, and it's something that has to be addressed. The town has to address this through the planning board, the select board, and town meeting. Secondarily, when we talk about affordable housing, it's really important to recognize certain aspects. It's called inclusionary housing because it should be included in our neighborhoods, that affordable housing should not be singled out. Oh, you live in affordable housing.
Brigida, I'm sorry. The 2 minutes are up.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. You can see I'm passionate about the issue.
It is an important issue. But now we're going to move on to the third question here. And that is, what is your vision for the town for the next 5 years? And again, you'll have 2 minutes for your answer.
There certainly is a lot of uncertainty in our town right now. And it's not uncertainty that we've created. It's uncertainty that's been created by the past year and a pandemic that we actually don't know the full extent of the impact. So this is what I'd like to focus on. Our master plan is started 20 years ago. No one could have predicted that we would have 2007 meltdown of our economy. Nobody could have predicted that we'd have a pandemic. But here we are. And actually, nobody could have predicted the extent to which we're looking at the impacts of sustainability and on global warming. So our master plan, we are starting to commission it now. This is the time. It'll take us about 2 years to do. It needs to have approved funding from town meeting. And everyone needs to be at the table, not just boards and committees that work in dark rooms in the back. And I heard somebody say, I worked on the last master plan. And what happened is I'm sitting there working on the master plan and I can't hear anything because there's bulldozers outside my window. Well, maybe that influenced the master plan. Let's all get to the table. Let's understand that our future is our decision because our master plan is at the table. The other thing I wanted to say, I'm not a politician. I'm not really good at some of these types of meetings, but I am a very good strategic planner. For the past 10 years of my professional life, I built heart hospitals in cities across this country, which meant that I had to address the community and address their needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Brigida. And now we're going to move on to your closing remarks. And for your closing remarks, you will have 2 minutes.
What I would like to share with the voters in Plymouth is, as I stated, I'm not from Plymouth, but my husband is actually from this area. And we came here for his work and for my retirement. And I jumped in with both feet in a community that I absolutely love. I grew up in a community with a historic background. I know what it means to protect history in a town. And I want to say one thing that I learned growing up is the importance of community. As we continue to build housing, we don't build houses, we build neighborhoods. We build connections between families. We build connections with our community and with our community resources. It's really important when a developer stands in front of the planning committee and tells us how wide the driveways are going to be and how they're going to work with wastewater, and we ask them how they're going to get water. It's really important for me to understand that they know that they are building houses for people to improve quality of life, to improve the way people interact with their community and love to be here. We are growing, and it's important that we understand that every decision we make for growth has a trade-off for something that we actually hold dear. You can't build a house on a tree. You can't build a house on a road. You can't build an industrial complex in the middle of a forest without having a trade-off. Let's be smart. Let's grow smarter, conserve better. Thank you.
Thank you, Brigitta, for participating in the interview. And we wish you the best of luck through your campaign and into the election. So we're going to get started with the opening statement. And Linda, you have 2 minutes.
Okay. Hello, Plymouth voters. My name is Linda Mccaldiff, and I'm running for the 2-year seat on the Plymouth Planning Board. As a Plymouth native, I hear people say, "Remember when," being nostalgic for times past. However, there is nothing constant but change, and this is not our mother's Plymouth. The town of Plymouth needs to progress with astute planning to face the financial crisis that is upon us. With over 20 years of dedicated and objective community service, I am the best applicant for this position. When I was chair of the Cedarville Steering Committee, we revised the village master plan and defeated a 40B development that threatened the landscape of Cedarville. Also, simultaneously, I served as chair of Precinct 8 town meeting members and the bylaw review committee. Being an English teacher, I became a candidate for our school committee, got elected for 2 terms, and served as chair for 2 years. It was during this time that our community worked collectively for the constructions of the 2 new high school and the Center for Active Living. These are town resources of which we all can be proud. While also having my own business, I was active in the Plymouth Area Chamber of Commerce. While serving on the board of directors, I suggested a public-private partnership to benefit our students. After 2 years of dedicated work, the Plymouth Education Foundation was established. My proven initiative and success indicates that I am the best candidate for the planning board position. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda, for your statement. We're going to move on to the questions now. And question 1 is, how does the board balance the need for commercial growth, residential growth, and open space in our community? And you'll have 2 minutes to answer.
That is one of my top priorities. It's really important to balance economic development and the conservation of our land and our resources. Smart growth development, which is in our master plan, transfer development rights, cluster zoning, are all important to build up the village centers with affordable housing. I really feel that there is a need to balance the conservation with our aquifer, all of our natural resources, and build the commercial development component to help the taxpayers in the town of Plymouth.
Excellent. Thank you,
Thank
Linda.
you.
For question 2, how would you address the issue of the lack of affordable housing in town? And again, you have 2 minutes for your answer.
Okay. Again, excellent question, and it's in my closing remarks. We need affordable housing. My children, our seniors, our working families are struggling to stay in their hometown. I feel so far the public-private partnerships have worked out. Village, open space, village density is important so that the transportation hub, affordable housing, workforce housing can be convenient for people that maybe need to use public transportation. But more importantly, it's important for our firefighters, our teachers, our town employees. I think working with developers to tell them what we would like for the character of our town and to preserve, little pocket parks, or to make things that are enjoyable for all residents is very important to me.
Thank you, Linda. And for our last question, for the question number 3, what is your vision for the town for the next 5 years? You have 2 minutes for your answer.
That's an important and as well difficult question, in the sense of I personally feel that, we're facing a financial crisis, and 80% of our taxes are with the residential homeowner, 20% by commercial. I would like to see maybe even more zoning tools so we can increase some of the development that's not residential and not within residential zoning, to find some spaces where everyone can agree that we need shopping, grocery stores, all the medical testing, all the conveniences that make a town wonderful, as well as drawing our ecotourism and supporting our downtown businesses, our restaurants. That's really important. We've done I think, the downtown Plymouth, people want to live here, people want to be here. I talked to so many people that have just moved into town. So I would like us to attract more people and have the sustainability to keep everybody in an affordable home and not paying so many taxes. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. And now we're going to move on to your closing remarks. And you have 2 minutes to start.
Okay. All right. In closing, the decision to run for this position was mine and mine alone. I'm an independent, hardworking woman who has a community history of success and service. It's time again for a woman to be a seated member of the planning board. I'm that woman. I will bring all my proven leadership to tackle the critical issues that we face as a community. I'm sorry. Excuse me for a minute. I just lost my wonderful place. It's critical to balance conservation with open space and commercial development. Conservation preserves our valuable natural resources, protects our aquifer, as well as maintains the important character of our town. However, thoughtful commercial development will help stabilize our tax base, provide jobs for a healthy economy, and bring new investments to Plymouth, which is important. We need to balance both commercial development and conservation. Smart growth, zoning regulations are critical. In addition, we need to improve public-private partnerships to increase our affordable housing inventory. Collaboration, not obstruction, is key to achieving this goal. It's critical that our working families, children, and our seniors can continue to call Plymouth home. I'm the candidate to achieve this goal. Home is where the heart is. My heart will always be with America's hometown. My head is always goal-orientated and independent. When the heart and head are
Linda,
in
I'm
unison,
sorry. We've reached the
success
2
can be
minutes.
achieved. I'm all done.
You're all
Here we go.
Okay.
End.
And thank you, Linda, for participating
Down
with
to
this
the
interview.
last second. After
Okay.
that. We're good.
Linda, we wish you the best of luck
Thank you.
throughout the campaign and in the election. So let's get started with the opening statement. And David, you have 2 minutes.
Hello, Plymouth. My name is David Peck. I'm a retired architect. I've lived in Plymouth for 28 years, and I'm running for the 5-year term for the Plymouth Planning Board. My background, I went to Dartmouth College undergraduate, Yale University to become an architect, and my first job out of architecture school was here in Plymouth, where I served as the project manager on the West, South, Indian Brook, and Federal Furnace elementary schools, among other projects. I spent 4 years in Maine and moved to Boston in 1982, where I served for 35 years as the director of facility planning. Emphasize on planning, because this is for the planning board. I retired in 2017. Here in Plymouth, since 1997, when we returned to Plymouth, I have been on the Plymouth Building Committee since 2005, closely involved in the 2 new high schools, Town Hall, Mass Maritime, here I am, the Maritime Facility and the fire station up in North Plymouth as buildings, applying my architectural and planning expertise. I've also been a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, also since 2005, living with the bylaws and the planning guidelines given to us. Now it's time, I think, to have an opportunity to join the planning board and help shape those bylaws and planning. So I'm looking forward to working with my other colleagues on the planning board and the citizens of Plymouth to make planning move into the 21st century and beyond as we enter our 401st year as a town. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Moving on to our questions. Question 1. How does the board balance the need for commercial growth, residential growth, and open space in the community? And you'll have 2 minutes.
I'm going to answer it as saying yes, the planning board shall balance all of those. I happen to think in some ways it's currently out of balance. One of my objectives, should I be elected, is to improve the percentage of commercial and industrial real estate in Plymouth. There's too much of a reliance on residential part of our tax base. We need more commercial and industrial. So that is, in fact, out of balance. But we need to maintain the balance with open space. We have a gem. We have a treasure of open space which we should both protect and build on. I think we are a remarkable ecotourism destination. So we have a great downtown, great village centers. We need more commercial, but it does need to be consistently balanced by open space. We have, of course, all the town conservation and open space land, but it's remarkable. We also have Wildlands Trust and Miles Standish Forest. So those areas need to be protected, enhanced. I also happen to think that we need, let me turn a phone off. we need to have our zoning laws include requirements of planting trees, encouraging solar, encouraging water saving devices, but basically our environment is extremely important, and that needs to be folded into updating and revising our current planning guidelines and bylaws.
Great, thank you, David. Moving on to question 2. How would you address the issue of the lack of affordable housing in town? And you have 2 minutes.
I have multiple ideas on that. There's several things. One is we should, as a town, try to work with the state to change the definition of affordable housing. In this town and in the state regulations, modular housing, so, I'd say call them trailer parks, but basically modular housing is very affordable, but does not count in the definitions of affordable housing. I think that should be changed because I think we actually have a lot more that doesn't count, but it should count. A second idea I have is in my work at Boston Children's Hospital, the city of Boston has something called linkage. And the linkage is every developer, every project over a certain size needs to contribute so many dollars per square foot of their development into an affordable housing trust. That has been the case in Boston since 1986. And I frankly would like to have Plymouth have linkage, potentially a two-pronged linkage, one for affordable housing. The money could go to the Affordable Housing Trust. But the second thing is a portion of the linkage could also go to environmental protection, sort of a fund that could help reimburse families and reimburse efforts that are climate protective and environmentally sensitive. So 2 things: improve the 40B definitions and the affordable housing definitions, and create financial streams to support affordable housing.
Great, thank you. And for our last question, question 3. What is your vision for the town over the next 5 years? And you have 2 minutes.
Oh, my goodness. It's continue all the good work that we've been doing and add new goals and objectives. I think the outside dining, which has sort of developed in response to the pandemic, has just been wonderful. The downtown has so much vitality when we have our good weather that I want to certainly build on that, not just our downtown, but through all of our villages. A second thing is, in the earlier question, I really want to see our bylaws and planning guidelines improved to help support affordable housing, but also support environmental goals, whether it's solar, water saving, planting trees, native plants and species in this area. Certainly should do that. Another initiative which I worked on a year or 2 ago and would like to bring forward is the ability to, for our bylaws, to support accessory dwelling units. So larger houses could create studio or small 1-bedroom apartments and be supported to that to give an affordable option to young families. There are other things that include the larger initiatives, which I'll mention in my closing statement, are taking on the Pine Hills and the energy, the land to focus on the most creative, balanced redevelopment when the nuclear goes away. I'd like to see us work on the 1,000 acres, potentially for an industrial park while maintaining conservation land. And the other initiatives that I'd addressed in some of your earlier questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, David. We're now going to move on to our closing remarks, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much. And to the citizens of Plymouth, I welcome your support on May 15th and hope I could be one of your new planning board members. There are 2 vacancies. So there's the 2-year vacancy, the 5-year vacancy. I would like to step forward as a retired architect and planner, experienced with the Zoning Board of Appeals and dealing with planning issues here in Plymouth for the last 16 years, and certainly planning issues in the city of Boston since 1982 through 2017. As an architect and a planner, I think I can bring that perspective to the planning board. I'm also, I welcome the opportunity to work with people and not against people. I think there's synergy as the sum is greater than the individual parts when you all work together. So I'm certainly hopeful of doing that. I'd mentioned in some of my other responses, my particular policy goals as a member of the planning board would be dealing with the energy and the Holtec property and rezoning that with both commercial and absolute conservation. I want to work on the 1,000 acres site in the resolution. I would like to increase the ratio of commercial and industrial to residential. I would like to work on linkage impact fees, as I'd mentioned. I want to help create and welcome more incentives for everything green: solar, renewables, landscaping, native plants, potentially create a revolving fund for water and climate issues. But basically, we have a lot to do. I want to roll up my sleeves and help make that happen. Thank you very much, and I hope I get your vote on May 15th.
Thank you. Thank you, David, for participating in this interview. We wish you the best of luck throughout your campaign and in the election. And for our viewers, thank you for joining us. If you're interested in watching replays of this interview, please visit our website, pactv.org/elections, for replay times and online viewing options, including PACTV's on-demand and streaming service, PACTV Prime. And please, make your choices heard by voting in the election on Saturday, May 15th. Thank you and good day.